OC. Viewer discretion is advised. Incoming transmission in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is going on, guys? It's Courtney here from the Outcasted OC podcast, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into what happened. So, we saw that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill have arrived to Monday Night Raw. Had them have a special invitation last week from Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, so obviously they have made their arrival to Monday Night Raw. We also got to see Bron Breakker has arrived, and the Judgment Day has arrived as well too. We started off the show by seeing a video recap of what happened at King and Queen of the Ring. Now, we're very much still leaning into the whole Dom Mysterio helping out Liv Morgan situation at King and Queen of the Ring. And we obviously got to see Damien and Dom talking last week before the steel cage match that took place, where Dom actually helped out Liv Morgan when it came to winning that match, and also with the kiss that took place at the end of the show as well. So Liv Morgan makes her way out to the ring and she addresses the kiss. She addresses the crowd and starts talking about the Revenge Tour. And she said that the goals of the Revenge Tour are to take out Rhea Ripley, and obviously she became the new Women's World Champion, and she has put Becky Lynch into early retirement. And then she starts talking about how she was kissing Dom Mysterio last week before he makes his way out to the ring. Mysterio comes out, and obviously we all know he can't cut a full promo without being booed out of the building, so I pretty much just caught glimpses of what he said. But he starts talking about Liv, and he starts talking about how obviously she doesn't know what kind of game she's playing, and that when Mami comes back she's going to kill you, and she's not playing. Liv Morgan follows on by saying, well, she's probably going to kill you too when it comes to this, but it's all going to be worth it. You're lying to yourself at the end of the day. You're trying to get closer to me, and obviously I want to take everything away from Rhea Ripley, which also includes you. Finn Balor comes out and grabs Dom and says to Liv, like, what are you doing? You need to back off. The Judgment Day doesn't want you. She ends up leaving the ring and walks away. Finn is very much confused as to what Dom is playing at. He's playing a very hard game when it comes to wanting to stick with Mami and also being manipulated by Liv Morgan as well. Following this, we got to see the encounter that took place between Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus last week, and then Sheamus is catching up with Jackie Redmond backstage before he makes his way out to the ring for his match. Jackie's asking how he's feeling about when it comes to this match against Ludwig, and he says, look, I'm very pumped, and obviously I feel like Gunther has been holding him back. I've spent 15 years in the WWE, and I always want to fight the best of the best and put on banger after banger, and if I can do that and earn people's respect, that makes it all worth it. So then we got to see the walking shot of Sheamus making his way out to the ring. Sheamus gets halfway down the entrance ramp before Ludwig comes out and actually attacks Sheamus's knee, so he pretty much goes for his knee straight off the bat. And then we end up going to the commercial break, but when we come back, we actually get into the match between Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. I wrote down in brackets in my notes, slept on classic, because I really enjoyed this match, and I feel like a lot of people sleep on Ludwig Kaiser, and it's like you actually kind of need to stop at this point because he's actually really good at what he does. So Sheamus is going after Ludwig, but through this entire match, Ludwig is targeting the knee of Sheamus, and we see Sheamus hit a really nice big boot, and he ends up fighting from the ground up. Sheamus ends up punishing Ludwig, but then Ludwig ends up throwing Sheamus into the ring steps. He's done this a couple of times where he's put someone in the ring steps and then he's done a lap around the ring and ends up launching himself at the person and getting that impact on the other person. So he did this with Sheamus and went straight for Sheamus's knee. Then we ended up seeing Sheamus was just running on a lot of adrenaline in this point in time. The ref goes to stop the match, but Sheamus is like, no, I don't want to end this match. And he ends up finding a second gear, and then he ends up hitting the 10 beats, and he tries to go for a roll-up, but towards this end of this match was just absolute carnage, and we ended up seeing Ludwig Kaiser take the win. I was quite surprised that it was a clean win by Ludwig Kaiser. I honestly thought like someone from Imperium was going to come out and help interfere in the match, but I really like that Ludwig got this clean win over Sheamus. Obviously, they get to put this to rest now, but I feel like it's not finished, but I'm really happy that Ludwig got his moment when it came to Sheamus. Judgment Day is talking backstage after what had happened earlier in the night, and Finn is like, Dom, what are you doing? You quite literally are playing with fire right now. Like, this is not good. You need to stop this. Damien comes in and asks what's up, and Dom's like, I didn't do anything, and Damien is like, well, have you spoken to Rhea at all about what's been going on? And Dom's like, yes, like I'm giving her space, which like I said last week, I don't actually think he is speaking to Rhea. Damien responds to this by saying we have a bunch of scores to settle and we're going to remind everybody tonight that we run Monday Night Raw and we're going to do what we need to do to obviously have the Judgment Day come out on top again. Then we ended up seeing Ricochet as being checked up backstage by someone in medical, and Ilya comes out and they start talking back and forth about how they obviously want to have another match with each other, but Ilya's telling Ricochet that he needs to be cautious when it comes to Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker is just a complete other creature when it comes to WWE, and that he's not to be messed with and he needs to be taking Bron very seriously. Ricochet says to Ilya that you and I are wired very differently to everybody else, and obviously we can go through a lot of pain, so I'll be cautious, but just let me have this match. Make our way out to the ring where we have the next match of the night, which is Dragon Lee taking on Finn Balor. Now, they did say on commentary that this was for the first time ever, so I'm really surprised that we got this match. Nonetheless, it was a really awesome match for both of them. Nice to see Dragon Lee again. I feel like we haven't seen him for a very long time. Finn Balor is in charge of the match at the beginning, and then we see Dragon Lee hit a really nice deep arm drag. So the Judgment Day comes out and they start causing distractions within this match. So we see JD go after Dragon Lee first, and we see a really nice sit-out powerbomb by Dragon Lee, and then we end up seeing Dragon Lee attacking JD McDonough. Carlito comes out and causes a distraction, and then we end up seeing Carlito being taken out as well too. Finn Balor ends up setting up the coup de grace to secure the win, and then we see JD, Finn, and Carlito all beating down on Dragon Lee, when we see none other than Rey Mysterio and Braun Strowman come out to make the save for Dragon Lee. Sami Zayn has arrived to the arena. We see him walking backstage, and then we end up seeing the Judgment Day catching up again, and Damien's asking Carlito to make the match between him and Braun Strowman official. He needs to go to Adam Pearce to make this official. Then R-Truth has a moment with Carlito that was really odd. Obviously, he was talking about his time within the Judgment Day, and he's like, when we're all doing well, they'll kick you when you're down, and when you're doing bad, they'll kick you, kind of thing. And he was talking about how it's some of the best times that he's had, and then Miz comes in and he's like, what are you talking about, like the best times that you've... I don't know what's going on with those two. It's comedic relief at this point. Sami Zayn makes his way out to the ring to cut a promo, and he starts talking about his Intercontinental Championship reign, and he goes ahead and he says that he feels like he hasn't had enough time to enjoy this IC title reign thanks to Chad Gable. And he says at the end of the day, this is about me and you, and we've been waiting long enough. Chad, you need to come out here and face me man to man, and we are going to end this. We end up hearing the Alpha Academy music hit, and Maxine comes out with Otis and with Akira, and Chad says that you don't deserve the time and the respect from me, and he says that we have to redeem ourselves. We've got a message from Chad that we're going to be reading out. And he says, why are you trying to turn my students against me? You're a pathetic excuse for a champion. And obviously he starts degrading Otis and Akira and Maxine, and he says that you are going to give me an Intercontinental Championship match. Sami Zayn's like, look, he's got it. I'll defend it at Clash at the Castle. But, you know, I want to talk to you guys about what's been going on with Chad. When are you guys going to decide that you've had enough? And when are you going to stop humiliating yourself? You guys are better than that. And he doesn't get to decide your worth. You guys need to set yourself free. And I'm like, are you trying to tell me the Alpha Academy are in the Y at 6? They're not, but that would be kind of funny if they were. Apparently, this is not a great time for Sami because he's facing the Alpha Academy, and then we end up seeing Chad Gable attacking Sami from behind. Otis is struggling to help Chad Gable when it comes to beating down on Sami, and then we end up seeing Akira Tozawa holding Chad Gable back, but then Chad ends up making Maxine big in the middle of the ring, and I did not really like that. Kind of gave me like Trish Stratus bark like a dog vibes. Was not a fan of it. We end up seeing Otis standing up for Maxine and Akira, and there's a moment where Sami ends up taking his aggression out on Chad and then ends up accidentally being thrown into Otis, who ends up slamming into Maxine and Akira. They fall outside of the ring and end up injuring themselves. A lot happened in this time, honestly. It's really, really hard to keep up. Otis ends up slamming Sami, and then Otis ends up leaving the ring, and he picks up both Maxine and Akira on his way out, and he ends up leaving the arena. Had to refer to my notes for that one because there was a lot of information to take in. I feel like I kind of just got thrown like 4 different storylines at once and I was like, I can't handle this. Speaking of can't handle this, Adam Pearce is watching this all unfold on the television and he is just shaking in his boots right now. Before Bron Breakker comes in and he was like, look, if that was me, I would have broken him in two, obviously referring to Sami Zayn. And he said, you know, I want to congratulate you for making a match. I'm going to teach you about respect. And nobody can hold me back. He's still going on about his, you know, rejection and the lack of him being in the King of the Ring tournament. So it's really nice to see this character progression going on between Bron and Adam Pearce. I feel like Adam Pearce is going to think to himself, why do they even, you know, put this guy on Monday Night Raw? I should have left him on Friday Night SmackDown. Which, I mean, fair enough, but Adam Pearce needs to grow a set of balls and get used to this at this point. Alpha Academy is backstage, and Chad's talking about how proud he is of everybody, and obviously Maxine and Akira are hurt, and Otis looks quite sad, and he's obviously quite upset with what's been going on, and Chad's like, you guys are going to help me win my IC title. I feel like that's not going to happen, but it is what it is. We head back to the ring where we have the next match, and it is Ricochet taking on Bron Breakker. Now, Ricochet out the gate is using his quickness on Bron to get a leg up on the competition, and then we end up seeing Bron runs the ropes a few times, and he ends up slapping Ricochet, and he ends up pressing him into the barricade, and we end up seeing Bron punishing Ricochet, and then Ricochet hits a really nice flying clothesline and a springboard, and then we end up seeing Bron Breakker running into a boot by Ricochet, but then Bron ends up obviously doing what he does best. He hits a Frankensteiner and a spear and he ends up securing the win. Then he ends up throwing Ricochet into the ring steps, and then the officials are coming out to try and stop him. But then we end up seeing Ilya Dragunov come out and he ends up attacking Bron Breakker. Obviously, I feel like Ilya and Ricochet kind of have this bond, this alliance going on at the moment. So it was really nice to see Ilya come out and help Ricochet in that moment. We head backstage where we see Dragon Lee is obviously trying to sort himself out after his loss against Finn Balor, and then Ray and Zelina end up coming in, and Ray basically says that he's going to be going for the head of Judgment Day, so he's obviously got a match with Damian Priest later on tonight, and he's going to be delivering the message man to man. We have our next match, which is Natalya taking on Kiana James. Now, before that happens, we actually get to see Kiana James talking to Jackie Redmond backstage before she ends up making her entrance. And she's talking about how she's learning under Adam Pearce and how obviously she wants to perfect her first step when it comes to making moves on the main roster. So obviously she had her first match against Natalya. There was a lot of groundwork from both of them at the beginning. Kiana looked really strong in her debut. It was a super fast-paced match, which obviously finished by Kiana hitting the 401k to secure the win. I'm really excited to see where Kiana goes on the main roster. I'm really hoping that they lean more into, you know, the story of her helping Adam and obviously trying to understand the business of the main roster and how it works. I'd like to see her in more matches as well too. I wasn't super familiar with Kiana James before she came up to the main roster. I caught her a few times on NXT, but from what I've seen, I feel like she is actually a really good talent that I feel like you could build up while the likes of Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch are gone. I feel like that would really help elevate her like they kind of have been doing with Lyra Valkyria. Kathy Kelly is catching up with the New Day in preparation for their tag match later on this evening, and she's obviously asking, you know, how the New Day is feeling about this match, and they're talking about how they're the best to ever do it. Karrion Kross comes out and talks about how the power of positivity is dead, and Kofi is obviously trying to say like, no, it's not, like we're the best to ever do it, blah blah blah. And then we end up seeing Kofi walk off, and then Karrion says to Xavier, like, after tonight you're not going to be following Kofi around anymore. Natalya's walking backstage after her loss to Kiana James. She runs into Sonya Deville, and Sonya's like, are you ready to talk now? And Natalya's like, yeah, I'm ready to talk now. And then Sonya ends up catching up with Shayna and Zoe before they obviously go out and talk to Jade and Bianca. I feel like Shayna and Zoe aren't really super on board with the idea of Sonya helping them. Obviously, we know that Shayna's got a bit of history with her, but I actually feel like that would really be a super cool tag team, or just even like a faction, to have Sonya as like a manager to help them out. I feel like that would be quite cool. We have the match between Carlito and Braun Strowman. Now this did not last long, and there was a lot of interference that happened within this match. Carlito and Braun both start off really strong, and then Carlito ends up hitting a really nice drop kick. Then we end up seeing Braun Strowman throwing Carlito around before Finn and JD come out to help Carlito, and then they both end up getting assaulted by Braun. Braun gets the upper hand, and then Dom comes out and tries to go for Braun Strowman's knee. Then we end up seeing him try to use a chair, but then Braun ends up just throwing it away. Then we end up seeing Liv Morgan come out, and she tries to get in between Dom and Braun so that obviously like he won't attack her. And then we end up seeing the Judgment Day end up beating down on Braun Strowman after he's won this match. There's just a lot of the Judgment Day tonight. I feel like we're in the same rut that we were in last year, where the Judgment Day was either main eventing or starting the show or just a part of it in some way, shape, or form. I feel like you could just quite literally have a show called the Judgment Day and it would just be about them. We see that Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are walking to the ring. Obviously, they are backstage, when I also spotted the Creed brothers were talking to Chad Gable. Could we potentially see them get recruited to the new Alpha Academy by Chad Gable? I do not know. Jade and Bianca made their way out to the ring and they start talking about how it's been a long time since Bianca has been on Monday Night Raw, and how obviously we had a special invitation to be here, so we're going to show up and we are going to collect. And then they end up talking about how Shayna and Zoe need to come out so they can say anything to their face. They both come out, they start talking back and forth. They're like, how about we just have this match tonight? Adam Pearce comes out and is like, do you guys want this match? I mean, all 4 women are standing in the ring in ring gear. Like, of course we want this match. It was a short match, to say the least. It was quite good. Jade and Bianca are getting a lot better in the ring together. I can personally say that I think Jade is getting a lot more stronger and confident in the ring, doing stuff by herself. I think she's really excelling at what she does. Obviously, Shayna is doing what she does best, and so is Zoe as well too. Bianca looked really strong. She wasn't selling that knee as much as she should be in terms of if she's still injured by Candice, but hey, I'm not going to nitpick here. This match actually did not end with a winner, which I think was quite a good decision, because Isla Dawn and Alba Fire ended up interrupting and beating down on everybody pretty much. Yeah. So I feel like what we're going to see is the tag champs going up against Alba and Isla at Clash at the Castle, which I feel like is kind of a cop-out, because if you just want to have them on the card because they're from Scotland, you should have built a storyline and should have actually cooked this in the background for a couple of weeks instead of just like deciding the week before, oh, we're potentially going to have a tag match. But hey, I don't do the booking here. I just talk about the booking. Kathy Kelly's catching up with Damian Priest before his match in the main event, and she's obviously asking how he's feeling about going into this match. And he's like, look, I respect Ray, but I am completely done with Dominic's father. And then Kathy's like, I wouldn't be doing my journalist due diligence without asking about what's going on with Liv Morgan. And he's like, I don't really want to talk about that. Drew McIntyre comes out and asks, how, Damian is feeling, and he's happy, and they just kind of have a little bit of a riff-raff back and forth. But Drew finishes off by saying, I'll see you soon. This does play into the rest of the show, so just be mindful of that. Jey Uso makes his entrance. He comes down the ring steps and basically declares himself that he is going to be a part of Money in the Bank. I didn't know that I needed this. I didn't know that I wanted this, but I feel like it's too soon to be declaring yourself for Money in the Bank. We still have like 1 or 2 more PLEs before Money in the Bank, but hey, I'll take it. Kathy Kelly's catching up with Lyra Valkyria backstage, and she asks, how Becky Lynch is doing, and Lyra's like, I feel like, Becky Lynch is quite disappointed, but she is going to come back around, and, she always does best when people are doubting her. And, Kathy's like, well, do you have anything in terms of, advice or anything that she's helped you with? She's been a mentor to you since you've been here on the main roster, so like, how are you feeling? She's like, I can stand on my own 2 feet, like I'm absolutely fine. No, you can't, because Io Sky just came out and attacked you, so you're lying on the ground, you're not on your feet. I feel like we're going to see another match between them two at some point. Actually, WWE did announce we're going to have a rematch of Lyra and Io next week, so that's exciting. We end up having the New Day versus the AOP, and this was a very short match. AOP pretty much dominated. Xavier Woods and Kofi got a little bit of offense in, but AOP ended up securing the win. I like that they're pushing the Final Testament. I feel like this is going to be very helpful for them, especially if you're having a moment where the Judgment Day is kind of, going through its rocky moments. I feel like you need another faction to really come in and be pushed, and so I'm happy that it's carrying in the Final Testament. Jackie Redmond catches up with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn, obviously asking what happened and why they came out to interrupt the match, and they were talking about how, Clash at the Castle is next week and they want to start taking chances. So I feel like we're just going to see a tag match with them at Clash, which is fine, but I don't know. I feel like they just don't get pushed as a tag team, and it's really sad because they actually work really well together, and they're one of the most established teams we have as well too, so hey, it's all good though. So we hit the main event, and it is Rey Mysterio taking on Damian Priest. Now I feel like in another life I have seen this match. I feel like maybe we have, but hey, I'm just going to pretend we haven't seen it. Ray ends up running into a big boot at the beginning of this match by Damien, and then Damien takes over. Ray ends up sending Damien outside of the ring, and then we hit the commercial break. But when we come back, Damien ends up side slamming Ray. Ray ends up picking up the pace and hits a really nice seated senton. Ray ends up hitting Damien with a DDT, and then we see Damien hit a really nice clothesline. Ray ends up going high risk, hits a 619. Carlito interferes, Dragon Lee interferes, JD interferes, Finn Balor interferes. You see the pattern that I'm starting to talk about. And then we end up seeing Damien hit the South of Heaven, and he obviously secures the win. And then Drew McIntyre comes in and attacks Damien Priest from behind, hits a Future Shock DDT. See how I said that, Drew said he was going to see Damien soon. And then we end up seeing Drew, and he's trying to basically clean out the entire Judgment Day. Like, he literally just, breaks them all down. He, hits JD, hits Finn, does this. And then he goes and cleans the commentary table because he's going to put Damien through it. But psych, Damien ends up chokeslamming Drew into the table. And then the Judgment Day just looks really strong afterwards. Don't know how this is going to help the match at Clash at the Castle. But hey, story progression, I guess. And with that, it brings us to the end of the Monday Night Raw review for this week. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you go ahead and show us that you did by liking the video. Go ahead and comment something down below that you enjoyed about Monday Night Raw this week, where you see the Judgment Day storyline going. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon next to the subscribe button. Those are the notifications. If you turn those on, you will not miss one of our videos or our reviews. We would hate for you to miss those because we put a lot of time into them, and obviously we want to be pushing out wrestling content for you guys. While you're there, go ahead and check out the description. You can find all of the socials for where you can find Outcasted on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as all of our personal social medias, so you can keep up to date with what we're doing when we're not posting on the channel. As always, you've got your regularly scheduled NXT review coming in from Reese this week, as well as the podcast where we're going to be doing the blind fantasy booking again. I'm looking forward to that. That's always a lot of fun, as well as your SmackDown review coming in later on this week. I will see you guys in the podcast on Thursday. I hope you have a really good rest of your day, evening, or whatever time you're watching this, and I'll catch you guys in the podcast this week. Bye, guys.